Bam chicka bam bam is right. What's up, Vital MTBers? This is Polygon's new Mt Bromo eMTB. It's their first full suspension e-bike. Has 160 mils of travel front and rear. It's $59.99 US. Pretty good price point. But I think what everyone is curious about is all this going on right here. This is Polygon's IFS, Independent Floating Suspension Design. They're calling it a 6-bar. Let's get that shock off and really move the suspension around to see what's happening. Bearings in there. Taking the shock out. All right, we've got the shock off. And aside from the elevated stay, the design of the elevated chainstay, if we take out this and this, those two links, everything else about this is really similar to Polygon's faux bar, FAUX, linkage-driven single pivot suspension design. We have a link that helps drive the shock. We have a seat stay that ends up in a pivot on the top of the chainstay. We have a chainstay that is axle to pivot, all one piece, that would indicate it's the same as the faux bar. Now the pivot placement would be different than what you see here, but those general pieces are all the same. And what Polygon has done to make this a 6-bar, an independent floating suspension design, they've added this link here and this link here, and it moves around like this. It's flowing nice and smoothly. There's no resistance. But let's dig into the details and we'll get into Brad Howell's riding impression.
Polygon offers the Mt Bromo in two builds, which have some big differences. The $5,999 N8, which we tested, and the $4,399 N7 both use 29-inch wheels. Mulleting is not recommended. They have 160 mils of travel front and rear and use a removable 504 watt-hour battery. The N7 uses a lower-powered and lighter-duty Shimano E7000 motor. The N7's fork downsizes to a Suntour Duralux 36 from our N8's Fox 38, and the rear shock makes a big step down to a Fox DPS Evol compared to the Float X2 Performance Elite on the N8 test bike that we had. There are some other small steps down in the N7 drivetrain, brakes, and wheels as well, but riders will save $1,600 going with an N7. Polygon makes use of some fairly aggressive geometry on the Mt Bromo with a hardy 470 mil reach on our medium test bike. Large frames jump up to a 490 mil reach. Regardless of size, however, the back end remains the same with 435 millimeter chainstays across all sizes. There's a 77-degree effective seat tube angle and a not as slack as some out there 64.5-degree head angle. Vital tester Brad Howell jumped on the Mt Bromo completely blind, not knowing a single statistic or figure other than that we had a medium. When we need to make a quick shakedown with an e-bike, we make haste for the same network of moto trails that we've used for all our e-bike tests. Because of the additional mass and an eMTB's propensity for hammering down hills, we set suspension up firm. We had sag out back hovering at around 20%, a figure we determined was a nice starting point for testing based on our e-bike review experiences in the past. Was it too stiff considering Polygon's charts are based on 30% sag? Bear with us to find out. Reveling in Schwalbe's 2.6-inch wide supergravity casing tires, air pressure was dropped to the low 20s. Our Mt Bromo was not light. Lifting it in and out of the truck was a definite chore. Knowing we were heading into steep climbs right away, we only used trail mode for a short time before bumping the Shimano EP8 motor to boost mode, where it lived for the rest of the day. Despite being at the large end for typical reach numbers in this size, the bike did feel comfortable at first take. The steeper seat tube angle was noticeable and was more than likely the reason our bike felt comfy while pedaling. Polygon says the Mt Bromo will offer trail bike agility and air quotes enduro-esque composure, and they developed the IFS platform to climb in what they call the power zone, the area where the anti-squat value is above 95%. Inside this zone, the suspension will remain active and not be adversely affected by pedaling force. From 0 to 110 mils of travel, small to mid-size bumps, the rider will be able to pedal full gas while having the benefit and traction of active suspension. With steeps, loose, and ledges, the climb was a non-event, which is a good thing. The pull on the EP8 motor felt much stronger than on other e-bikes we've tested, even with the hardy Schwalbe tires. Turning the Mt Bromo around and heading back down revealed an absolute monster between our legs. We'll touch on the faults in a minute, but out of the descending gate, the Mt Bromo is a bump-eating, trail-taming beast of an e-bike.
We've dubbed this bike the Plow King. All right, more than Mr. Plow, this is the Plow King. If there's something that this bike does well, is blitz things in a straight line. The steeper, great. If it's fall line, if it's chunky, if it's fall off stuff, doesn't matter what it is. This bike will just, it'll blitz anything. As fast as you can hang on, as comfortable as your eyeballs will focus, or as fast as your eyeballs will focus, as comfortable as you are as a rider, this bike is gonna go through it as fast as you can manage. Honk, honk! Plow King! What it's not going to do super well is hit the bonus lines, hit the jumps, the little booters. This is not a pop machine. This is a business maker right here. Oh! Sorry, X2. We smoked this shock a lot. Anytime we were going off a lip, anytime we sent the bike with any kind of depth or anything, we were bouncing off the bottom of this shock. We're really sorry, Fox. But good news, it didn't blow up. But we clapped this thing a lot. You know, that's what's gonna make it such a nice plow bike through the rough stuff, is it's just gonna keep going all the way through. We didn't feel bottom on any of the big hits when we were just kind of blitzing sections of trail. Really, it was only off like those big poppers when we were just clapping out the back end. So along the lines of our super amazing Schwalbe tires, we really appreciated the meets, especially today. The moto trail that went road out here is nice and blown out, and when things are really soft and chewed up, these guys just dig in and give you traction for days. The Polygon does corner extremely well, especially at high speeds. We got into some sweepers, we had to do some quick right-lefts on the wider moto trails. This is a strictly business machine, which is in keeping with the bike's overall characteristic. You know, you're not gonna be hitting a whole lot of fun bonus lines, but you're gonna be blitzing those sections super fast. And the same way, you're not gonna be coming through seated with your foot out, just trying to goon around. You're going to be leaning the bike over, using some proper cornering techniques to maintain the utmost of speed, which will be important because this is not a light bike. Can we kill a battery in like 5 miles? You can if it's boost.
At the end of the session, our battery was on life support with just one lonely red bar remaining. We also weighed the Mt Bromo after the ride to learn it tipped the 55-pound mark with our flat pedals on it. With the tune in max power and assist mode, paired with those super gravity casing tires, a whole lot more energy is required to propel the Mt Bromo, making the 504 watt-hour battery an interesting spec choice. Riders will need to learn battery management skills to get the most out of their day on the Bromo.
We've got a pivot here, a pivot here, a pivot here, a pivot here, and a pivot here. And out the back. Oh, God. And a pivot here, bonus pivot.
As for long-term durability, this new IFS suspension design from Polygon has a lot going on, with plenty of pivots, subsequent bearings, and linkages. We don't question the quality or the craftsmanship of the build, but that's a lot of action happening on a burly bike capable of mowing down entire mountains. Maintenance alone will be time-consuming as you try to access every bolt and pivot for cleaning. We can see a rear fender would be a nice addition to keep crud out of that lowest link, too. Cable routing from main frame to rear triangle needs some attention as well, as the chainstay slides across both brake hose and rear derailleur housing. Adding some slack to the lines may help a little bit, but wrapping those cables will help mitigate any early wear. The fork bump stops are identical to what we saw on the Marin Alpine Trail E2, and from that test we've learned that you need to keep an eye on the adhesive.
Honk, honk, Plow King!
So what's the bottom line? Our test revealed some mixed messages about Polygon's new e-bike. On one hand, it has a small battery to save weight and suspension with an emphasis on pedaling efficiency and climbing. On the other hand, we have downhill tires and burly suspension on our N8, and a ride quality that's more like Gravedigger than Robbie Gordon. We can embrace the bottom out because it handles fall line speed so well, but we have a tougher time getting over the small battery and the potential maintenance headaches of such a complex suspension system. All that said, the Mt Bromo is the hardest charging rig we've ridden in recent memory. It's definitely different, has some flash with those graphics, but forget your jibs, watch that battery life, and ride the trail like it was your last day on this rock. No matter what, who cares what you're riding, as long as you're riding. Get out there, and we'll see you on the trails.
You tell it, hey Polygon, it's time to turn. And those big old Schwabes will grab the dirt and they'll say, okay, it'll be cute.